This is K.M. Weiland, and you're listening to the 79th episode of the Wordplay Podcast. I hope you all enjoyed a wonderful Christmas yesterday. I have every intention of presenting myself with the belated Christmas gift of a finished manuscript. I had to do some revamping of my outline, which resulted in the deletion of about 4,000 words, and left me with just 5 chapters between me and the end of that first draft. This is always a jittery time for me. I want to savor my last moments in the story, but I'm also in a rush to reach the finish line and reward myself with a happy dance around the house and lots of chocolate. Or maybe it'll be leftover Christmas cookies this year. Stay tuned. I may not be able to share the cookies, but I'll definitely be sharing my excitement. Resist the Urge to Explain, the latest post in the video series on my blog, shows how an annotated volume of George Eliot's classic Silas Marner sapped the story's power through over-explanation. You can watch the video on my blog at wordplay-kmweiland, that's weiland.blogspot.com. New videos are posted every Wednesday. Meanwhile, enjoy this week's podcast, 8 Reasons Weather is a Writer's Friend. Ever since Edward Bulwer Lytton slapped readers with his infamous dark and stormy night line, writers everywhere have been leery of misusing weather in their stories. After all, who among us wants a contest for the worst opening lines in fiction named after us? But avoiding weather altogether is a mistake of its own. Weather offers all kinds of atmospheric, descriptive, and plot-advancing advantages. Let's look at a few. 1. It sets the mood. Ever notice how, in a movie, whenever a character receives bad news, it starts raining? Using weather to mirror the character's attitude and set the tone can strengthen a scene's emotional impact. 2. It offers symbolism. To a character at war, snow at Christmas time might make him reminiscent about home, unless, of course, he grew up in Australia. Because weather and its rotation in the seasons is universal, it offers built-in value as a symbolic motif. 3. It raises the stakes. All kinds of natural disaster stories are built entirely around the weather's ability to become life-threatening. We can also utilize nasty weather on a smaller scale to increase the stakes in any story. As April Henry put it in her July 2003 Writer's Digest article, Build the Thrill, life is complicated enough when the Mafia and the CIA want you dead, but what if you're also trapped by a snowstorm in an isolated farmhouse without power? 4. It heightens the tension. Let's take that isolated farmhouse in a snowstorm example, and say your character knows a serial killer is stalking in the woods outside. Thanks to the weather, your character can't get out, but of course the serial killer will want in. Readers won't be able to look away. 5. It introduces irony. A beautiful spring morning, complete with chirping birds, set on a muddy battlefield, presents a contrast that brings all the details into sharper focus. Maybe your characters fall in love in the midst of a thunderstorm, or maybe he receives that batch of bad news on a sun-soaked beach. 6. It creates an interesting setting. Weather has the ability to take a scene from 2-dimensional to interactive 3-dimensional. It removes the sterility and forces characters and readers alike to feel the places in which they find themselves. Add rain, wind, snow, or humidity for extra spice in practically any scene. 7. It presents evocative imagery. In my historical western, A Man Called Outlaw, I was able to use a snowflake to not only create a beautiful image, but to make an important statement about my character's aloneness. Weather is visually striking, and that's always an asset to a writer. While you're utilizing these positive attributes of weather to bring your stories to life, make sure you learn the lesson offered by Bulwer Lytton. Weather, like most description, is best delivered in small doses, interspersed with the action and dialogue, and offered only when important. Readers won't let you get away with long paragraphs describing the rain trickling down the window, but they well appreciate the glittering edge of vibrancy weather imparts to your story when properly used. Thank you for listening to the Wordplay Podcast. To read a transcript of this episode, visit me on the web at wordplay-kmweiland, that's weiland.blogspot.com, and be sure to listen again next week.